As mentioned before, we could still play rook c8 and just go for that bishop endgame. And my guess it's winning. Hello everyone, I'm Emil Stefanov, International Master, and this is the very first weekly scenario of 2026. If you want to practice out the position for yourself, check out the link in the description. Let's get started. I have the great honor of showing you this position in particular, because this position comes from my course on how to win winning positions in Noctie. Make sure to check it out. Now, let's talk about this position. We are up a pawn. As we can see, we have 4 pawns and black has 3 pawns. Now, we do have 2 pairs of rooks and bishop. When you get to such endgames, you have to be very careful. There are certain pieces where you can trade that will benefit you, and certain pieces that if you trade them, that might not benefit you as much. For example, if at whatever point we trade the bishops, we have to be extremely careful, and we have to be 100% confident that the resulting rook endgame is going to be winning for us. As we know, rook endgames are mostly drawn, even when we have an extra pawn. So that is one pair of pieces that I'm going to make sure that I trade when I know for a fact I'm going to be winning. Right, so to address the situation, our bishop is being attacked, so we do have to defend it. And obviously we could play rook e7 or rook c7. Both moves look really good to me. I will probably start with rook e7, although I think rook c7 also works. But rook e7, just cover the bishop on the 7th rank. As we can see, Noctie is playing rook f7. So logical, trying to put some more pressure. We could play rook c7, get the rook onto the 7th rank as well. I would trade 1 pair of rooks. I know if I trade 1 pair of rooks, this will make it easy for my king to join the battle as well as pushing the extra b pawn. Bishop takes f7, logical move by Noctie. And this is an interesting moment. We have a decision to make. So, for example, we could play rook c8 check. Now, I was expecting king takes f7, in which case I would have given a check, brought my rook to the 7th rank. But now this is a very interesting moment. As I mentioned earlier, we could trade if we really wanted to the rooks, and in doing so, we're going to be left in a bishop endgame. And that bishop endgame, if I have to guess, is most likely winning for us. That would be my guess. Now we have another opportunity. We could just pull the bishop away, let's say to a6, because after rook takes b2, then we simply have rook c8 check, and that is very good check because we would manage to win the bishop. And I really like that move. I specifically like bishop a6 because I'm preventing pawn to a5, which is a very important move to prevent, so that I can play b4 and try to utilize my extra pawn on the queen side. Probably the only reason I'm not leaning towards rook c8 quite yet is because after rook c8, bishop c8, there is bishop b3. I am probably, as I said, still winning, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I really want to go into that line. But of course, bishop a6, there is also bishop b3 trying to block me. So I think maybe we should start with rook c7. It keeps all the options available to us. If we have to, we could definitely move the bishop at a later time. So for example, rook c7, bishop b3, we could go bishop a6, attack the a7 pawn. That looks really good to me. So we'll just go ahead and play rook c7. And Noctie does agree with me that it is a good move. I'm assuming Noctie plays a5, otherwise, yeah, we had bishop a6. So now we're just going to play b4. It's very important that we utilize our extra pawn, okay? We don't want Noctie to play a4, bishop b3, and it would feel like our extra pawn is in vain. So we're going to play b4, make sure that we trade onto the b4 square, and now we just have a passed pawn, and honestly, we're just going to keep pushing it as far as Noctie allows us to do so. King f8, right? So yeah, I mean, we could just play b5 and b6 and yeah, just get this pawn all the way to b6. It would be a question of how we move our bishop, because when we move our bishop, then the pawn is going to be hanging. So there might be a better idea to place it on b5 for the time being, put the bishop on c6, and from there try to figure out what we're doing. As mentioned before, we could still play rook c8 and just go for that bishop endgame. And my guess it's winning. because we have that extra pawn on the other side of the board. We can utilize that as a distraction, and we can bring our king towards the center and onto the king side. I'm assuming that is winning, but we do have to be extremely careful. So I might prefer to keep my active rook, keep this rook passive. So for the time being, I believe b5 should be a good move. We're in no rush to play rook c8. We could play it even on the next move if we really wanted to. Well, of course, now we can no longer do that, right? Rook c8, now it's no longer a check. Okay, so this is the moment that we were discussing before. We could play b6, and our pawn is on a dark square. It cannot be attacked by the light square bishop, but we cannot move our bishop so easily. The alternative is that we play bishop c6, which, right, if Noctie really wanted to, Noctie could go for rook takes b5, and I mean, that exchange down endgame is most likely winning for us. We just have to be careful here because we know we're in a winning position, but the resulting positions, we have to be 100% confident. Bishop c6, bc6, our pawn is very well placed, although Noctie will give us a check, and not entirely sure. So for now, we'll keep everything calm and collected, and we'll play b6, push the pawn as far as we can. Bishop c6. Okay, this is an escape move, yeah? Basically, Noctie didn't really have many options. I was considering Noctie playing rook d8, rook d6, but then the moment the rook moves, we're able to move our bishop and then move the pawn to b7. So essentially, in that position, the king couldn't cross the c file, and it couldn't cross the 7th rank. And so essentially, we had a situation in which we were dominating the king, so the king couldn't really do anything. The bishop couldn't really do anything either. And so now it's just going to be a simple cleanup. So we'll recapture, obviously, with the bishop. Noctie will take our dangerous pass pawn. And now it's just about a matter of, can we mobilize our pieces? So I'm going to play king h2 and just get the king rolling. King g3, as we can see, excellent move. Of course, is the end game. We have to bring the king. So king g3. Of course, there's other really good moves we could have played, but ultimately what we're trying to do is we just need to be a little bit careful of the pawn trades that might happen, but as long as we keep the rooks on the board, it should be good. So we're going to play king g4 and keep advancing as much as we can. The king is paralyzed, and we could definitely take our time. We could play rook c8 at any time and escape the pin, so I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to play g3, take it slowly. Nothing to rush for. h5. Okay, we will just simply go king h4. And yeah, this pawn is under tremendous pressure, and g6 has to be played to keep the pawn safe. And now it's just a matter of unpinning ourselves. So yeah, unfortunately, we'll have to play rook c8 to unpin ourselves. I'm saying unfortunate because we will let the king onto the 7th rank, but that is quite okay. We can play bishop to b7, and the rook trade is good. So yep, Noctie doesn't want that. Understandable. Now we can play bishop to e4, which I think is a good move because it puts some pressure on the g6 pawn, and we're getting ready to attack that pawn. Yeah, so that's a good move by Noctie, keeping attacking my bishop, but I'm going to simply go rook c7, give a check. Let's see where Noctie places the king. Okay, that allows me rook c6, and it's a simple cleanup from here on. Alright, we're just gonna do the good old check and mate. There we go. So again, this was an easy example if we were extremely careful how we proceeded in the beginning. Just to summarize one more time, we had to be very careful and not to play the wrong moves. For example, here, a move that we might be attracted to is rook c8 check because it does trade the rooks. However, after bishop takes c8, I know Noctie says it's a good move. I know we're still in a good position. But as you can see, a5 is the move that Noctie chooses. And Noctie is very close to playing a4. And as I said before, this blockade is going to be extremely hard to break. I know we're still up an extra pawn. I know we're probably still better. But are we winning probably that's a different question. Here, things are a little bit tougher. But if instead, had we played rook c7 or rook e7, both are pretty good, then we have an easy time of just keeping the rook active on the 7th rank and then playing b4 and just using our pawn, extra pawn, very easily. So good luck in your games.